Good evening. Go to the call to order and roll call, please.
Chair Kimbrough,
Here.
Vice Chair Inverson, Member Burge, Member Martinovich, Member McQuarrie, Member Mozingo, Member Wiggins. A quorum is present.
Thank you. All right, so next is public comment for people who need to speak now. Hopefully you would speak during the item is on the agenda, but if not, you're certainly welcome to come up now for any comments. That makes it much easier. Next on the list is approval of minutes. Does anybody have any changes? I have one change.
I have one change.
Okay.
Paul Sinnott's name, if it could be spelled, it's just spelled wrong in the minutes for the awards.
Okay.
So it's Sinnott.
That's funny because Lin Zong is misspelled too. And don't ask me how to spell Zonge. Is that it? Yeah, Zonge. I thought it was a test to see if we're reading the minutes or not. All right, so we have two changes. Does anybody want to make a motion then, or had any other changes?
I move that we approve the minutes with the slight changes.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Unanimous. All right. We're going to change the agenda just a little tiny bit. We're going to bring item 7A first, so that we can have a speaker come up without sitting here too long, because it's good information for us. So if we could have 7A come forward, let me read what it says. Members' announcements and requests. So we put you underneath our members' announcements because the foundation's part of that. So, well, sure.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Kimbrough and members of the committee. My name is Mike Raponi. I'm currently serving as the president for the Foundation for Carson City Parks and Recreation, and been serving as the chair since July. I've been on the board for over a year now and still learning my way through the system. And what we'd like to do tonight is just very briefly introduce ourselves as we are to the Parks Commission and hope to the Cultural Commission as well in the future, and to keep a line of communication open with these important commissions and committees in Carson City related to parks. And one way we're going to do that is to provide a simple update report. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this yet. And that way we won't be coming in person to all of your meetings and expecting time, but we want to make sure that the commissions and committees understand what the foundation is doing, where our priorities are. And this simple report just provides a brief of some of the projects we're working on. And one thing is we want to, I don't know if reestablish is a good way to put it, but re-emphasize our role in the community. And with that, I want to compliment the Parks and Recreation Department. We have been working in a very cooperative way with Ms. Budge and her staff. And that's huge to carrying out the mission of the foundation. What's important to them is important to us, and what's important to us is usually important to them. So I just want to open it up and see if you have any questions about that summary I provided. We are excited. I don't know if you had a chance to see, we got an article in Carson Now about the new signage at the Livermore Complex. And those signs have yet to be permanently posted in a kiosk form structure, but they will be over the next few months, I would imagine. But they are out there, and they look great. Parks did a great job with the design of the signs, and we were very, very pleased to use some of our funds to fund the cost of the printing. So with that, before I turn it over to Dennis, who serves as the vice president of the foundation, want to know if you have any questions.
Not from the floor, Denny. You can make comments at the public comment, which. Yeah, okay, so I'm sorry, I can't get you in the mix here. Okay, thank you. I look to the left, any questions?
I see that you're having a volunteer recognition for the Silver Saddle Ranch. Do you guys work on the Silver Saddle Ranch? Does the foundation do that as well?
Not at this time. We have not engaged project on Silver Saddle Ranch. Is that in the report or?
It's under the membership development. It said you were gonna have probably recruit members at an event.
Yeah, and I'll let Dennis address that.
My name is Dennis Peterson, and I'm currently the vice president of the foundation. I think what you're referring to, or what we were referring to, is that we did a little presentation out at Volunteer Day at the Silver Saddle Ranch. What I want to talk about a little bit is what we've done since Mike and I took over. One thing I think is huge is we redesigned the foundation's website. Anybody can go on that website now, hand out some of our brochures. And we also developed a system where people can sign up and you can do renewals and people can do online donations. So there's no more, before you had to submit paper. So that's been improved. One of our big issues, and I think Mike mentioned that in his email, is that our visibility has been around since 2015, and very few people know who we are. And the second issue is our membership. We just don't have the numbers of members that we should have in a community this size, and for the projects that we have going on in Parks and Rec and open space. So that's what we're really working on, and we're working on that by attending meetings like this, any place where we can increase our visibility. We try to. So our immediate goal, not only to improve our presence, is to increase our membership, which goes hand in hand. Mike sent everybody a personal email, and we hope tonight that everybody will look to become a member of the foundation. And I think it's important to also, maintain a productive and cohesive relationship with open space, Parks and Rec, and other city entities, so people know who we are. And so tonight we would like to just invite everybody to become a member. So it's going to hand you anybody here.
Yeah, no pressure, guys.
I already am a member.
I think I am too, but here's another one.
I'm already a member.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate this time. I looked at your agenda.
Well, I want to say one thing. Was there any other questions?
Not a question, but a comment. Thank you for saying what you do, because that was going to be my question, so that you can showcase the work that you've done and how long that you've been around and try to get some more involvement of people. So appreciate having this presentation. It's been, I know that this group in the past, we talked about having a liaison to attend the meetings because there is such a close working relationship. And this is, in my recollection of the time on the board, the first time that we've had the foundation come and provide some information. So thank you, the ability to interact and learn and hear more. So appreciate the information provided. Thank you.
There is a QR code on the back of our little flyers here, and all of our projects have been updated on the website. So you can go on there and learn a lot more about what we have done and what we're currently involved in.
Go ahead.
If you haven't done so, I would highly recommend that you like get on the speaker series for like not Sierra, Senior Center and like Lions Club and some of those organizations and get the word out that way. That's a good way to get the word out to the public, the local. And if you get the Rotary Club, let me know because I've been trying to get them.
They're not going to let you know.
Well, thank you for that.
Anything else?
Suggestion. Well, one quick addition, and we want to make sure our actions speak the loudest. So we're trying to clearly define our projects and what our immediate goals are with each project. So any potential member or donor can really see, well, these are active projects, what they're working on, and then we also have past projects which aren't active, but we're keeping a strong definition of what those projects have been.
I got to say, Susan brought it up. I feel bad. I'm the liaison that didn't make the last 3 meetings, I think. Thanks for bringing that up in a public forum. So I had assumed that role, but I went to the meetings and I found no value for open space. And that's not a bad thing. And that's what I think this board's, in the future, we're actually talking about visiting in the future how open space can be more of a part of the foundation for like projects or things that we're working on, which hasn't happened. So, and then I've talked to Erin about coming to your meeting instead of me, so she's shaking
Yes,
her
I
head
would love
yes.
to. And I have a contact with the Rotary. My husband and I were the host family for the International Youth Exchange student from Japan this year. So I can get you on the speaker series.
So Erin's a good person if you see her background and where she's been to help you guys. So she is going to go to the meetings because 2 o'clock's just not a convenient time for me, as it might be for some people for an afternoon. So I don't have to go anymore because Erin's going to go. But if Erin can't go, she can always call me and
I'll be there.
So because we want to establish a much better relationship after our retreat 2 years ago. We had talked about how to firm that up. And that's when I was going to go as a liaison, but I failed. Not totally failed. I just didn't do a good job, I guess. So thank you for coming, and I appreciate the fact that you guys are there. You're really important to the community, and Jen really thinks you're important in the community for Parks and Rec. So we want the same relationship with open space. So thank you. Next on the agenda, we'll go back to 5A. Denny, there's no public comment. You're late, buddy. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, that's what I was. Yeah, it passed. Sorry. You got it at the end. Well, you're going to stay till the end and still have a chance to say. Yeah. You're not kicked out. No. You can. There's other action items you can make comments on when we get to. So you have more than one chance to come up.
Mr.
what?
Chair, we should have public comment after every item anyway.
Not on advisory, I was told. I mean, where there's no action or nothing like these.
Well, not for a report like that,
Right.
but and their future,
That's
other
what I
items
just told
we'll
him,
have-
yeah, that there's more action
absolutely.
items coming up. You can-
Absolutely. I do wanted to point out before you go on to the next item, as far as the Parks Foundation relating to open space, they just passed grant guidelines for us. So if there's grant opportunities where we need a 501c3 to be the applicant, they've approved those for us. So I think with our volunteer program, natural resource management programs and other projects we have along the river and things like that, I think that will be a good avenue for us to be able to utilize the foundation in a new way.
That's our hope. And you're going to make sure, Jen, that it all happens a little better that way now. Thank you. Where was I at? Oh, 5A, for discussion only. Presentation discussion only regarding presentation of service awards to retiring Open Space Advisory Committee members. And I have 2 plaques here. So to do this, I like to stand in the front because we can get a picture and stuff, and I'm not behind a wall. So you 2 can come down, both of you at the same time then. So what's a bummer is we're losing two of our most, I'm not gonna say our most.
Most senior.
Senior. What is that sentence? So really sad to miss both of you leaving. You didn't term out, and you promised me, and I talked to your sister about this, that if they don't find a replacement, she has to be on the board with us. So
Okay.
but I think they have two qualified people.
She
that are
told
coming
me, I talked to her in depth
Oh, did
before.
you?
Yes.
You've been a very valuable member, and you brought a lot of your experience to this. And you also kept me in check a few times, which is important sometimes. So this is your award for your time served here from 2021 to December of this 2024. And this will be your last meeting, except for you can come in one of these seats when you come back and see us.
Perfect.
So
Thank
thank you
you.
for that.
Thank you.
And then there's Donna, who termed out. If you don't know Donna, if you haven't met Donna, she's the champion for so
Everything.
many things in this community. And she should have won like 100 awards now. Like, she's done everything for muscle power. Being an officer, being a part of it, opened up a whole new trail system to B&T, which is one heck of a big project. She's been a voice, everything in this community about trails, parks, rec. She's been there and been a part of that. So your 12 years with this board is going to be
14.
sadly missed. 14.
14, because I completed somebody else's.
Oh, well, this is 2011 to 2024. 24, take away. So this is really sad that you have to leave us and term out.
Well, I'm not really going away. You're not
I
getting
know
me.
that. Well, you'll be out of the seat.
I will be in those seats.
So let me have a picture with the board behind us again. Aaron, you can come back too. And Jen's there with her camera. As I. So there's your awards. And she picked out the pictures. Lindsay picked out your pictures. Ta-da. Thank you.
I do want to say,
I'm sorry you don't get the mic. What do you want to say?
I did go through the records.
Might need to go to the mic.
Oh, I
Go
think
back to the
everybody
mic.
can
Here.
hear. I did go back through the records. I just wanted to see, since I started, how much land we've acquired. 2,028 acres since I joined. So almost a third of what we have now in the time that I've been here. I don't think I hold the record for term. I think that's still Bruce Scott. But I'm probably in second place. And I am going to show up on a regular basis and be in those seats. And I'm looking at some other committees. I'm going to give myself a year's rest, but I am still president of the Historic Virginian Truckee Trail, so I am going to be around for that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Don. Hey, Lindsay, can you come up here a second? I use my privilege as being chair of this to do this. I like to see people get credit for all the work that they do. And having worked for 4 years in all these different projects, I have a lot of respect for what you do. Oh my gosh. So you're gonna get an award for that. And it's an old Marine Corps saying, a job well done. Because you do, and it reflects in your staff and all the works and the rewards that you give in this open space. This is for you. Hold the plaque so that Jen can get that picture. So thank you. You bet. You're welcome. Very welcome. So, here, take this. Oh, here it is. There's a little piece of wood. Business. Now we're at 5A. We go to 5B for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors regarding a memorandum of understanding concerning Lake Tahoe pass system between Tahoe Transportation District, Carson City, Douglas County, and Marshall County, and a presentation regarding the State Route 28 Corridor Management Plan and the Lake Tahoe Path System, also known as the Tahoe East Shore Trail. Greg and, not Jen, I guess, is
Thank-
Greg and with a guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Greg Berger, Trails Coordinator for Carson City. So tonight, we would like to provide you with an update on the State Route 28 corridor projects, as well as some details on the proposed memorandum of understanding. And so I'm pleased to be able to introduce tonight Tara Steyer, who is the Capital Program Manager for the Tahoe Transportation District.
Thanks, Greg. Good evening. Again, Tara Steyer, Capital Program Manager with Tahoe Transportation District. So TTD is implementing a number of projects proposed in the State Route 28 National Scenic Byway Corridor Management Plan. And those proposed projects will extend the East Shore Trail, provide parking to relocate vehicles from the shoulder parked vehicles to designated lots, and then improve transit infrastructure. So we'll review some projects along the SR 28 corridor, and then we'll talk about the MOU that Greg mentioned. So if you've driven through the SR 28 corridor in the summertime, these images probably look very familiar to you. And you don't have to look far to recognize the congestion and the safety issues, but we also have some environmental concerns. So just running through these projects, starting at the top right. So we have the unauthorized and disorganized parking there. It's extending into the forest. Not only is it unsafe, it does create more of a heightened fire risk. So then we have the congestion, the second photo down. SR 28, of course, is a highway. It's meant for through traffic, and it's really critical that we keep the roadway moving for emergencies. So then we have the shoulder parking, notorious shoulder parking there. It heightens erosion and it impacts the structural integrity of the highway, especially in those steep grades. So then we have the pedestrians using the shoulder and oftentimes the travel lane as their sidewalk. Sometimes they're darting out between vehicles. So I know when I drive through, it's kind of a white knuckle experience. Then we have the vehicles parked over the fog line. So, that, of course, takes away from the travel lane, pushes cars into the oncoming traffic. And then finally, the social trails. It's kind of difficult to see, but we have a gentleman there on one of the unauthorized social trails. So that also increases erosion, and that fine sediment, of course, goes into the lake, impacting clarity, purity in the ecosystem. So visitors see this type of free-for-all approach, and they assume that there's no management, and their behavior then sort of mimics that perception that anything goes. So in 2013, 13 partner agencies came together to address these concerns and developed the SR 28 National Scenic Byway Corridor Management Plan. And I'm going to call that the CMP. So it outlines 5 goals: improving safety, protecting the lake, enhancing the visitor experience, expanding multimodal transportation options, and promoting economic vitality. So the U.S. Forest Service completed the National Environmental Protection Act, Environmental Analysis, or NEPA, for all projects included in the CMP. So the corridor management plan started first by looking at capacity. So rather than demand, we started with capacity. So this was back in 2013, of course, but they aimed to relocate 674 shoulder parked vehicles. And on a summer day, it's easy to exceed 1,000 vehicles parked on the shoulder through there. So it won't be a one-for-one replacement. And mostly that's because of topography. The region just does not have that much space for that many lots. But once the off-highway lots are opened and they're accessible to transit and trails, the no parking zones along the highway will be expanded. So also important to note, within the first 3 miles of trail and the 90 existing parking spaces, that no parking zone has been very effective. There's only a couple areas that we call leakage where folks were parked. And we did a complete shoulder count 4 days this summer and 2 Saturdays and 2 weekdays just for the comparison. Also noteworthy, the corridor management plan created a corridor management team, and we meet bi-monthly to talk about operations and maintenance of the existing trail and lot, and we also talk about the upcoming projects. So we certainly recognize that it's not a silver bullet. This isn't going to address all the concerns in the corridor, but we really believe that implementing the corridor management plan will be a huge step in the right direction. So I want to take just a moment to talk about the other supporting plans. We have the 2017 Linking Tahoe Master Plan. So it really focuses on mode shift and moving folks from those vehicle trips to transit. And in order to increase mode shift, we really have to expand our transit to these recreation areas. We see that they're hot spots, of course. That's where folks want to go. Then we have the 2020 Regional Transportation Plan. So our CMP goals and the RTP goals align. And then we have the TRPA, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency's Vision Zero strategy. And that includes a high injury network analysis, so essentially looking at crash information. And unfortunately, there's multiple areas along the corridor that are considered high injury networks. So all of these plans really show a consistent direction for transportation planning. And again, we understand there's no one single solution, but we have a shared responsibility with the other partners listed at the bottom of this slide. So I think you all have a handout here for all of the projects in the corridor. And these are proposed. I would like to note it's a living document. The construction years and the funding amounts change almost weekly. So it's a snapshot. And the corridor projects are based on, they're a phased approach, and that's based on partner priorities as well as available funding. So starting at the top, we'll work through those that TTD is the lead on. So we have the SR28 North Trailhead and Water Quality Project. So this is best described as a continuation of the existing East Shore Trail, so continuing that trail a little bit further north, and then adding additional parking. So these were parking spaces that couldn't be completed in that north demo, that first project. So it's being designed with up to 45 spaces in the NDOT right-of-way. And soon we'll be reaching out to the business owners right in that area by Sweetwater Road, if you're familiar, to go over some conceptual drawings with them for their feedback. So then we have the completed section. So that's the 3 miles between Incline Village and Sand Harbor, and then the 90 parking spaces that are near Ponderosa Ranch Road. So this, moving just further south, that mustard color section is the Sand Harbor to Thunderbird Cove, which is 1.75 miles of shared use path. And it was actually awarded $24 million in RAISE grant funding earlier this year. So these projects are quite expensive, but it's really encouraging when we get a grant at that dollar amount. So this project, along with the next segment, are included in the MOU. So the Thunderbird Cove to Secret Harbor, that's just under a mile of trail, and it includes parking improvements at both Chimney Beach and Secret Harbor. So the Forest Service constructed an expanded parking lot at Chimney Beach last summer, and that's expected to open this summer with, once we have the pedestrian crossing over SR28, and then restrooms and the parking kiosks and things. Well, not over, but at grade. And then Secret Harbor is also being designed, as well as the trail through there. So moving on, again, further south here in that kind of teal blue, so that's 5 miles of trail, Secret Harbor to Spooner. So it's certainly part of the proposed network, but it has a high dollar amount and we have not secured any funding for it. So it's probably over 5 years out. And then finally at the bottom of your sheet, we have the Spooner Mobility Hub and AIS station. So AIS, Aquatic Invasive Species Inspection Station. So the project is being designed on Forest Service property directly across SR 28 from Spooner Lake State Park. So not on 50, just want to clarify, it's further down 28. And the proposed design includes over 200 parking spaces and a permanent aquatic invasive species inspection station. So the temporary station or the seasonal station that you see at the junction of 50 and 28, that will just be relocated to a permanent facility. We'll have a mobility hub there, restrooms, of course, the trail and related amenities. NDOT is also planning some intersection improvements for that entrance. Right, so moving on to the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. So back in 2012, an MOU was created between Carson City, Washoe County, and Douglas County to outline the use of State Question 1 funds. And those funds were used to create the State Line to State Line Bikeway. So now that program is called Conserve Nevada, and the MOU needs to be updated. So the program regulations actually have a set aside for $5 million for the Lake Tahoe Pass system. So East Shore Trail or State Line to State Line Bike Path, whichever you prefer. So the MOU is needed so the local jurisdictions can name TTD as the project lead so we can receive the funding and move these projects forward. So with the $5 million, there's a proposed distribution. We have $2 million for the Sand Harbor to Thunderbird Cove segment. So that's located in Washoe County. Then we have another $2 million for Thunderbird Cove to Secret Harbor. So that's in both Washoe and Carson City. And then we have $1 million, which is for a segment of trail that we haven't reviewed yet, but we will next. It's called the South Demo Phase 1A. So it's in Douglas County and South Shore between State Line and Laura Drive. So let's go ahead, and there is the trail alignment. This is the proposed alignment in the environmental assessment. And so it essentially starts at State Line, and then it skirts around Lake Parkway. It parallels Highway 50, and then it's on the 4H road for just a moment, and then connects to the completed trail on Laura Drive, right at the base of Kingsbury behind Dart Liquor. So it's a 1 mile segment, and it's a separated path, so it won't have any impacts on 50, no lane reductions or anything like that. And ultimately, when it's finished, we'll have a car-free option from the resort core, casino core, to Nevada Beach and then on to Round Hill Pines Beach. So once we move into design for this segment, we will absolutely begin to engage the public. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, on the corridor project, the crossing at Chimney Beach, is that a pedestrian light or just a site, crosswalk?
Crosswalk with an actuated signal.
Actuated, okay. And NDOT's improvements at the intersection at Spooner, roundabout, or what are we getting?
They had proposed a roundabout, but the last I heard, they were backing away from that idea. So I expect to know more tomorrow. So it's timely.
And anywhere in this, is there any kind of plan to get, I know there's transportation improvements around the lake, but transportation connections down to here?
I can speak from the transit side of Tahoe Transportation District, and I think that one of our long-term goals would certainly be to use this mobility hub as, you know, either a park and ride or a location to connect our 21X. I don't know if anyone remembers that route, but it was it had to be suspended back in 2016, but we've always wanted to reinstate that program. Because it had high ridership coming straight from Carson into South Lake. So
It'd be really nice to
it
have
would
that
be.
back.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all I had.
Anything else down here? Jay? No? hasn't had a chance to read the plans here, but that's a pretty heavy-duty project. That every taxpayer in Nevada would have to pay about $100,000 each to pay for that.
That's why we're going for those federal funds.
I love the fact you use Dart Liquor as one of your points of interest.
Most people do know where
The
it is.
locals know where Dart Liquor is. See, I lived up there I used to run San Harbor for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
So I know a little bit about, we worked on this plan 40 years ago. It's taken a long time.
Well, thanks for your work on it.
Yeah, well, there's 250 spaces, so a shuttle system has to be in place to pull those spaces in. So that's just a component. Are they going to wait till those 250 spaces are built?
Before transit is improved? Not necessarily. I think it's just once the additional lots come on and we have a place for transit to turn around. Because as you know, that's kind of tricky for a 30-foot
Yeah.
bus. So the Secret Harbor location, we're designing a transit
Oh,
hub, but it won't necessarily be as big as Spooner. So that's kind of midway central corridor. So buses coming from Spooner have a place to turn around, and then also coming from Incline Village would have a place to turn around.
so the TTD is going to be the lead for all this construction, huh?
Yes, we may not be the implementer on all the projects, but as far as the design lead, yes.
I was on TTD for like 3-4 years.
I
Representing
remember.
Carson City, yeah.
Yeah,
So say hi to Carl for me.
I will. You know Carl's retiring.
Well, it's about time.
Well, we're
I've
not
known him
ready for
since
it.
he was here at PA. That was a long time ago, yeah. That's a tough job, a very tough job.
Mhm.
So the action is,
I think Susan still has some.
oh, there, did you have time to think about
I
it?
knew Susan would come up with something.
No, she,
My question is more of the agreement related versus the project related.
Mhm.
So the previous agreement, it said it had a 5-year term. And so this one, it looks like it's a 10-year term.
Mhm.
Are you making the presentations to the others as well? And has there been any pushback or any challenges that
No.
could come to be?
Not specifically related to the MOU, because essentially it's a financial document. It's pretty programmatic. I will say that Douglas County was concerned about any lane reductions on 50. So that's why I've incorporated that now into the presentation.
And that is good. I'm glad you said that, because having recently been attending a lot of the NDOT meetings, that there's been a lot of comments regarding narrowing the lanes on 50.
Yeah.
And then another question, so that when the actual funding agreements, those, I think I read in here that those will be separate agreements that you'll work directly with the parties that are
Correct.
corresponding there.
So we have an award letter from Conserve Nevada, but it's contingent upon having this MOU.
Perfect.
oh,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions. Thank you.
welcome. Any other questions? So the action for this is for us to support. I'm looking for the words that are on the,
We'll move to recommend.
yeah, well, if there's any more, is there any more discussion before I ask for a motion?
Well, I think you have to open to public comment first.
Well, that's why we haven't voted yet, huh? Thank you very much. Keeping me in track.
Yeah, you're gonna lose that too.
So what we're going to do is call for public comment at this point, since we have no more questions from the board. And we'll have public comment come up, and then we'll bring it back to the board. Good job, Don. Oh. Yeah, I liked your artwork, Denny. That was cute that you sent me. I was trying to figure out who the guy was being buried in the sand, if that was me or you. That was very cool.
Thank you, Chair. Denny French, Carson City. I appreciate the idea that so many different groups are getting together on this project. I've heard a lot of different conversation about some of the things that you still have to face, as far as the fact that people aren't necessarily wanting to ride a bus because they want to take the coolers or their blankets or their dog or whatever. So the parking that you suggested today was new.
You're okay.
Sorry.
Actually,
That-
for a change, Lindsay has the power. She just put up the clock for you.
Thank you. For show. You put good time and money into this, and I appreciate it. I'm sorry I was late. I'm sorry for several reasons, because some of the things on this I would have liked to touch base with people before they actually had this comments or had the discussion. And one of them was, I'm hearing so many different angles of this that is, it's not been consolidated into a form for me with going to the the municipal transportation or Compo or the regional. There's conversation there. There's conversations in other meetings regarding this project. And there are a lot of bugs in the ointment and or a fly in the soup type situations you're talking about. There's still problematic areas. And I appreciate all the effort on that. I just have a real hard time saying yes to something that hasn't been open to the community, or at this point that we're not making funds into it. We are accepting funds from other areas. I'm understanding that. So it's all federally funded, grant, no match type situation, or how's that work?
Hey, Denny.
I'm sorry. If I address this to,
The questions and then I'll ask.
I'll ask
Is
you
there
the
any more than
question.
one question you have?
You mean I'm limited in one?
No. I'd want to know if you want to have a couple for me to,
Oh, I would, and that's what I would have addressed and what I would have handed
watch
you.
your time now.
Thank you. Anyhow, the questions are, is the grant or the federal funding have a step for us to set in a certain percentage that then we top in? Also, I was fortunate, it's just a deal, I was fortunate to meet several people that are in the grant considerations that the state had today, teaching their people how to deal with grants and such. And I met the director and her next person in, and they said they will have, when they get their staff set up, group things for people in cities and such to get an opportunity to learn those grant ideas and suggestions and processes. And I thought that was very amazing. That was this morning at the community center. And I'm sorry I don't have the young ladies' names on me. I kept the cards in the car so I wouldn't lose them. But so I'm sorry I wasn't able to contribute that earlier. But with this, those questions are pretty much it. And those flies for me are the restrooms and the fact that people are going to come. And I think it's maybe a point where you have to close certain beaches at times. And I hope that's been considered. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Denny. Did you gather something you could answer for their?
Sure.
Okay.
I just want to be specific that the Conserve Nevada funding is state funding, is Nevada state funding. We do have several federal grants that are applied to the projects. And at this point, there's no financial contribution that we're asking for from Carson City.
Right. I saw
Okay.
that there was bottom line. I was going to say that in discussion, that bottom line not being asked for any money. So
No.
it's like, it's a pretty easy MOU to sign without the money part. So any other more discussion before I call for the question then?
I just have one more comment. I appreciate the fact that you are spearheading this because it is really dangerous and the public safety issues are really important. The transportation issues, like you said, we have to keep the traffic flow going for emergency purposes or whatever. And obviously the erosion control is an issue for the slopes and the lake, and it's a lot of moving parts. So, and a lot of cooperation between a lot of agencies, regardless of whether they're local, state, or feds. So thank you so much for doing this.
Just one more question for you too. With the implementation of Sand Harbor doing the reservation system with the parking, has that changed your plans at all? Has it helped? Do you see the same problem?
Well, so we operate the East Shore Express usually from mid-June to Labor Day. And they started their reservation system after Washoe County School went back into session. And that's when our East Shore Express really sees a decline in ridership. So I think that this next season will really tell us. So just to clarify, our East Shore Express is the transit service between Incline Village and Sand Harbor. So I think that once we have a full season to look at those numbers and those impacts, I think we'll have a better idea. But we're coordinating with them pretty closely. Mhm.
All right, I'll call for the question. Go ahead, Jay, thank you. Oh, wait. No, go ahead.
I move to recommend approval of the memorandum of understanding to the Board of Supervisors, subject to the district attorney's final review and edits that do not impact the substance or intent of the agreement.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Sam, second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a safe trip home.
Yes.
5C, for possible action, discussion and possible action on the review of public and stakeholder survey results for the Carson River Master Plan Amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item before you is to further this discussion we've been having related to the Carson River Master Plan update. This is an item that's come before you a few times, and we've been kind of updating you as we go along where we're at in the process. Just a reminder for you guys and the public, so planning for the Carson River dates back all the way to 1993 here in Carson City. With the creation of the Carson River Advisory Committee and the Board of Supervisors passing a resolution at that time to really start looking at planning for the Carson River corridor. During that time, the Carson River Master Plan, the original, was also written. So that was produced in 1996. So of course, we've done lots of amazing things since then, and the plan is due for an update. So just a refresher on the great things that we've achieved with that original plan. Of course, we acquired and protected over 11 miles of floodplain along the Carson River, as well as significant recreation enhancements with the development of the River Trail, as well as the Carson River Aquatic Trail. So we're very proud of all of those. The original plan doesn't reflect any of those amazing achievements, so that's going to be part of the update. And then also kind of planning for the next phase of management of the Carson River. So we've been working with the National Park Service Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program since 2022. Most recently, we've been diving into kind of our stakeholder and public engagement portion of the project. So we kicked it off with a tour in September with all of our invited stakeholders. We followed that with releasing a survey for the public to gather feedback about their experience in the river. And then from there, we held our first workshop with all of our stakeholders just to start diving deeper into all of these topics. So tonight, we are going to be reviewing the results of both the public survey as well as the stakeholder survey that we did as part of that tour and workshop. So with that, I'll turn it over to Marina, who's going to share our results.
Hi, everyone. Marina Lovejoy, for the record, Senior Natural Resource Specialist. So Lindsay gave an introduction for you. I'm really excited to share the results of these two surveys. The first was our Public User Experience Survey, and that was mid-August to end of September. And then the second survey was our Stakeholder Survey, end of October to beginning of November. The Stakeholder Survey, like Lindsay mentioned, was for a group of people that we specifically asked to be stakeholders, and I'll explain a little bit more on that later. Okay, so in your packet you have attachment 1, which is the public survey results, and attachment 2, the stakeholder survey results. The questions differed for both surveys, but where there's overlap, I'll present that. So the public user experience survey, we advertised a number of ways, and we got just under 300 responses for the 6 weeks that the survey was open. We asked some demographics questions. It would be interesting to compare the demographic data for our survey respondents to Carson City demographics to look at also state and maybe national recreation data. At this point, we haven't done that, but maybe that'll be incorporated into the plan update. So many of the questions that we asked were related to how, where, and when people recreated in the Carson River area. Trail hiking, running, dog walking, relaxation. These were all what people answered. Passive recreation like photography and bird watching is up there as well, which we were excited to see. What areas are people most commonly visiting? Most of the time that people were saying that they spend is on more of our developed trail systems and trailheads. Carson River Canyon and Ambrose are our least developed open spaces, and those are, of course, visited the least by the public. We asked people what their favorite areas along the river are. This word cloud kind of shows what people were saying most often. Mexican Ditch Trail, Mexican Dam, the ranches. We then asked people, or we then pulled out the most common areas. And again, the more developed places are coming up in the most number of responses. But interestingly, the lesser developed places are kind of falling in the middle of people's favorites. So it's good to see that even though people might not be visiting our lesser developed places as frequently, it still ranks pretty highly in their favorite locations. Okay, we asked folks general reasons for why certain locations are their favorite. People would call out specific areas that they would say, I like this place because it's really beautiful or it has really great access. But generally, these are all of the reasons for why people had a favorite area along the Carson River. We asked people if they felt safe recreating in the Carson River area. Most people felt yes, they do feel safe. Very few people, 3%, said they do not feel safe. And then other people felt only unsafe at some locations. So then we...
Just a quick comment on
Sure.
that one and the gender. This to me is really important because the majority of the responses were people over 65 and women. And if you have those age groups both feeling safe, that's a huge, that's a kudos.
That's a great comment, Susan. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, and we love to see that 77% of folks felt safe along the river. So we asked for people that said they either didn't feel safe at all or felt unsafe in some locations, why is that? And the number one reason was people related. And that included things like unhoused individuals, partying, drug activity, shooting, other types of crime. Wildlife is up there as well. We do have people calling us about mountain lions and bears, things like that. But people was the biggest reason for why people may feel unsafe. And then we asked people where along the river they feel unsafe. Most responses said the entire Carson River area, which is not super specific, but Carson River Canyon is up there, which makes sense. It's pretty remote. Mexican Dam, while is on our more developed list of places, it is also out there. You can be out there by yourself quite often. So these all make sense to us. We asked the public what they value most about the Carson River area. Of course, the beauty, connection to nature. These were all great responses. We asked folks if they think the river, on a scale of somewhat healthy to, or very unhealthy to very healthy. Most people think that the river is somewhere in the middle, somewhat healthy, and very few, only 5% think the river is very unhealthy. So it was interesting to see people's perception there. Most people think that access to the river is very important to their quality of life. Very few think it's very unimportant, so we were excited to see that. 89% of people want to see more money allocated to the river, which is great. We intend to do that. We asked folks in the public what types of improvements and enhancements are most important to you. Trails and trailheads, bank stabilization, education, those are coming to the top. Carson River Canyon improvements, interestingly, are falling towards the bottom. And then there are some folks who think that there should be no improvements or enhancements. We asked folks where they want to see more things improved and enhanced. Ambrose is top of the list. Buzzy's Ranch Trail's up there too, which is interesting because that's our most recent trail, one of our most recent trails, very developed area there. So that was interesting. What are people seeing as good or positive changes in the last 10 years? All of our wonderful trails that we're putting in. The maintenance that our amazing open space team is doing, increasing access for people. These were all great things to see. Okay, so I'm gonna pull in elements from the stakeholder survey now. So like I said, this survey was sent out to 68 individuals that we kind of hand-selected. The public is certainly a stakeholder in this process. Absolutely, that's why we sent them the survey. We intend to do workshops for the public to bring their comments in, but we wanted folks with an expertise in this field, in these fields, to really help us dive deeper into this plan. So we had 19 folks at the time of all this analysis. 19 folks fill out the survey, the stakeholder survey. Most people are coming from local government, OSAC, nonprofits like Muscle Powered, and Friends of Silver Saddle Ranch. This is a word cloud showing people's affiliation. Lots of people in our stakeholder group have restoration experience, ecology, education, trails, lots of great experience coming to the table. So there were 4 main questions that we asked in our stakeholder survey, and they get kind of at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this first question, we asked stakeholders what they perceive as the greatest strengths of the Carson River. And public access and ecological function were rising to the top. Ecological function's kind of broad, but generally people were saying things like the wildlife habitat, the vegetation communities are really great. The river can be natural. So that was really interesting. We asked stakeholders what improvements to the river corridor they would prioritize. People said more access and more trails. People want to see greater ecological function, even though that's also a strength. There's things that we could do. Things like improving the resiliency of the river corridor. Let's do some revegetation projects. Let's enhance our natural resource management. Noxious weed control, education, interpretation, things like that. So we can compare that question in the stakeholder survey with a public question. And we can see that both the stakeholder group and the public think that more access and trails should be prioritized. More education and interpretation opportunities, more signage. There is a similarity between both groups. Some think that nothing should be prioritized, no improvements should be made. Facilities and amenities like restrooms, improvements to the trailheads and parking areas, more lighting, things like that are a commonality. All right, the next question for our stakeholder group was getting at opportunities for planning and from a planning and management perspective. So things like let's spend more time doing maintenance, invasive species control, improvements to the Carson River Canyon, adaptive management, education interpretation. Let's have more volunteer projects out there. Let's improve our amenities. Comparing that with a similar public question, right, we asked our stakeholders what things should be prioritized in our planning, and then we asked the public what do they love about the river, so that can kind of inform us where our planning priorities should lie. So things like education, interpretation, maintenance, river access and trails, wildlife habitat, nothing perhaps, and then amenities and restrooms again. Okay, we asked stakeholders what they perceive to be the biggest threats or issues to the future of the Carson River, pollution, There was a number of miscellaneous things like perhaps beavers are a threat. Reactive instead of proactive planning is a threat potentially. Recreation could be a threat. Losing our cottonwood galleries. Developing in the floodplain is a tremendous threat. Drought, invasive species. We asked the public a similar question. Instead of the public typing out their thoughts, they were asked to rank a predetermined list of things. And there's some similarities: pollution, noxious and invasive species, riverbank erosion. So we asked the public a follow-up question. Okay, so we gave you that list to rank, but is there anything else that you think is a threat? And again, potentially people, that's coming up as a threat for the public. Mosquitoes is a huge one. Development, trash, all interesting things to see and to think about. So those are the results of our 2 surveys. We do have all of that information and all the documents in your packet on our project website. That's available to the public and to you all. We'll post updates there as more things occur. Since the 2 surveys, we have had another engagement event with our stakeholders. We had a workshop at the end of November, and we had about, I think, 30 stakeholders attend that. And so we reviewed the results of all of these surveys, and then we kind of came to 4 major themes that we're seeing that are going to form the main components of the plan update. And those 4 themes that we arrived at are natural and cultural resources stewardship, outdoor recreation, education and outreach, and then collaboration and partnerships. So we intend to have another workshop with our stakeholder group in about March to dive deeper into all those themes. And then we're going to start having at least 1 open house with the public. And then about a year from now, we should have a published document. So I'll take any questions.
Starting on the left, any questions?
What was the most surprising result to you?
Honestly, I was really surprised by how many people simply said, thank you so much for all the work that you've done. That was really encouraging to see. Far and away, people were really happy and excited by the work that we're doing. So I really loved seeing that.
I actually have a few questions. One is I would love to see some habitat restoration projects. I know you're going to give us your work plan, probably next meeting, but I was just curious if off the top of your head you had any plans to do any kind of habitat restoration along the river.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge component of the plan. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something Lindsay and I definitely want to address as well. But once we get that plan dialed, we can then, make our priorities and fill out our work plan for the following few years. So that's definitely going to be on there.
Okay, cool. Okay, my next question is about the safety issue. Are you guys working with enforcement? I don't know if it's the park rangers or the sheriff's department. Do you have any statistics about unauthorized camping? Like, I know that was one of the concerns that people had, but do you know like how often that actually is happening?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. We typically have our park rangers come in June and provide a presentation about all the activities that they've done the last year, and then they'll usually include statistics as part of that. So I would have to take a look back at previous June's presentation to see if they had statistics specific to illegal camping, and I can report those back.
In that area.
But anecdotally, I know that we do get illegal camping. Oftentimes it's from folks who may not be aware that it's Carson City property. A lot of these lands were conveyed to us from the BLM. And so there may be some misconception still of who those belong to. So with some of our improvements in signage and our kiosks and just getting more of a Carson City presence at some of these more remote trailheads, I think that's improving. But that's always going to be part of our education with the public as well.
Okay,
So that's
I
a
was
good question.
reviewing the survey results before we came here, and I noticed that the person that seemed most concerned about it was the resident of that area, like somebody that owns property along the river, so I was just curious. And my last question was regarding, Hope mentioned that it's a Superfund site, and I remember when I was a kid, people used to dump their vehicles in the river back in the 80s, and I was just wondering if there was any traction about doing any kind of mitigation to, to bring the river out of that status. I don't know if that's something that you guys have been working on or not.
Great question. So it is a super fun site because of the history of mining that we have in Carson City, specifically all the mercury that was put into the river as a byproduct of the mining activities that took place. So that is a big project. It's not something that Carson City alone would be undertaking. I know that NDEP and others have been working on kind of what is the plan for mercury in the Carson River. To my knowledge, the plan has not been published yet, but when the time comes, we'll definitely be working closely and making sure that that is definitely part of our planning process, but we
Sure.
won't be doing it alone or in a
Yeah,
vacuum.
no, it's
Yeah.
huge. But I guess as a follow-up to that, what about the fish? Are we encouraging people to fish and eat the fish in the river, or is that not encouraged?
That is an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that up on the record. So we absolutely do not encourage people to eat the fish. So fishing as a recreation activity is totally safe and allowable. So is swimming or paddling, just being on the river in general. But the biggest risk with mercury exposure specifically comes with consuming mercury contaminated fish. So we do have signs at our trailheads that warn people not to eat the fish. We've been working with NDEP to get some additional signage out there. But yeah, that's part of our education for the river, is letting people know that that is an unsafe activity. So thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Phenomenal amount of work that's been put into this, and it's beautiful. You've got a great thing, and I'll no longer be on open space, but I will still be a stakeholder. So I'll be at the rest of the meetings, so looking forward to it.
You just have to buy a new hat, stakeholder hat. So, Jay, I'm gonna let Lindsay say what she was surprised by too, so.
It's a good question. I was not prepared for it, but I think just the volume of people who participated is always amazing to see. You know, it's no dog survey. We got a lot of responses for that, but almost 300 responses throughout the community speaking about the river and what's important to them, I think it speaks volume for what this resource means to people in the community. So I think similarly to Marina highlighting just how excited people were, I was glad to see that people were wanting to participate in this process and provide feedback. And all of that feedback, as Marina has demonstrated, is going to be incorporated into this plan. So we appreciate everyone's input.
And then having read a bunch of the data, Jay, one of the higher respondents was about access. And I come from that background recreation, and they're more access to that river than you could possibly believe, but they want more. So I think it might be coming down to the definition of what that access means versus having 500 trails to the lake. So it's like, that was strange. And then what else came up? A lot of people, which makes it difficult for us, don't have any idea if they're on Mexican Dam or Mexican Ditch or Buzzy's Ranch or Fifth, or they don't know there because there's all those trails. And Sursala Ranch, they all interconnect. So that's part of the trouble with trails. So, but it's still the same area. So that surprised me. Well, it didn't surprise me. I just figured that would confuse them a little bit. So, and the number, like Lindsay said, was phenomenal. Get 300 people to respond to that. And they were sincere. They thought about it. It's not like just check a box. They had to make comments, and they were all very good comments. Nobody gave anything silly or applied like I ain't answering any of these or something. So that. Was there any questions on this side?
Yeah, just a couple, or one couple. So this topic was about the survey, and Lindsay, you just said a great statement, all feedback will be incorporated into the plan, because the eventuality is that the plan will have specific projects and based on priorities and based on funding, but based on these surveys.
Great question. All of the above. So yeah, we're gathering feedback from everyone, the public, our stakeholders, staff, our planning group. So the goal is to get as much information and feedback about the river as humanly possible, and then that will help inform priorities that will be put into the plan. So if there's certain areas that need to be prioritized for more enhancements, or certain types of enhancements that need to be prioritized, that's what's going to shake out in the plan, as well as kind of natural resource management, maintenance, any of those things that need to be codified in the plan, because the original plan basically said, let's go out and preserve the river, and we did that. So now kind of what are the next steps?
I would build upon what you said about you're going to have another workshop with the public. I would continue that follow-up, because lots of times when people go into a survey and you're saying you're going to prioritize based on the results, you may need to manage the expectations that you can't do everything for all. So just continually doing that feedback loop will help provide that success for the projects. But thank you. A lot of work, and it's fun to see that data.
Well, part of the fun is that there are over 1,000 comments, because people would say 3 or 4 things.
Yeah, I was
So we
reading
broke
some
it
of
into
them.
separate,
There was one that struck me, and I was trying to find it, but it just
insane
didn't
amount
like.
of data. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to separate out the ones that are gonna wanna know if their comment was taken or not.
Mhm.
Anything to add, Sam?
Yeah, all the questions were, questions that I had that have been answered, so thank you. Just one follow-up. Can you explain to me Aaron said it's a super fund or super fund? I'm not familiar with that. Yeah.
Great question. And I'm not an expert on this, but I'll give you a high level view. So it's a Superfund site. And basically it's a designation that is given to heavily polluted sites. And so the Carson River actually is, believe, one of like the largest Superfund sites that we have in the country, just because the Carson River crosses multiple counties and it's a fairly large watershed. Not the entire river isn't polluted, just the portion where mining was occurring heavily. So I believe it's typically from like below Morgan Mill here in Carson City down through the Carson Sink, basically, because nutrients flow downstream. And so, like I mentioned, NDP and there's a federal agency that's involved too, it slipped my mind, but they are all involved at kind of the planning stage to say, we have this problem, now what do we do about it? And so a lot of that has to do with mitigation. Also avoidance is a common, don't disturb the soil, because one way that mercury can be re-invited into the system is by disturbing the soil. And so it plays into like project review and making sure that any actions that people are taking in the river corridor are not exacerbating this issue. And then ultimately, like I said, it's a big issue, and it's going to take a lot of great minds and a lot of agencies and a lot of people to figure out a good solution. Good question.
One thing I wanted to add there, Marina Lovejoy for the record. So there's 2 units for this Superfund site. From Morgan Mill downstream, right? That's where mining activity started and is flowing downstream. But then above Morgan Mill, all the way up to the dam, and that's included because fish can swim upstream. So even if you may be fishing, by the dam, it's still recommended that you don't eat those fish because they could have been coming from.
All the way to Lahontan.
Yeah, exactly.
say, I think we have someone in the audience who knows even more. If we could invite Brenda up.
Well, yeah, she's gonna come up actually, so. Yes. That's a big question.
Sorry.
Many years, now, it's a good question to ask, because everybody on this board needs to understand if you're gonna deal with a plant on a river full of mercury, how do you do that?
Thank you.
So that was a good question for, not everybody understands that. And the staff struggles because there's so many different regulations involved with that too. So any other questions? I'm gonna invite the next speaker up. One of the strengths of this, when I worked on the first plan in 93 to 96, somewhere in there, CWSD wasn't around to be a part of the program. So when Ed James came on after the flood, things started going like this about stewardship on the river. And so Carson City makes all these acquisitions, so it was kind of a dual for both of them. So you couldn't ask for better, two agencies keeping an eye on the river. But the next speaker, when Brenda comes up, has been around this a long time with this project, seeing it from the beginning. So it's really important that they're a huge player in this plan, because really the water's, anything to do with the water is their game, more than ours putting people in a kayak in it. So, but we are really grateful that they're a part of this program, and here they are on their time off, 7 o'clock or whatever time it is, to come up and give a talk tonight. That's really great. Shows a real strong collaboration and partnership, even though I did promise her 2 pieces of candy if she came, so we got that. Oh, you gave, well, then I'll have to give one to her. So I'm gonna invite you up to speak on this item then, since we're done with staff, and then I'll take public comment. Denny, after she's done. Thanks, Brenda.
I should sign in though, right?
Yeah, and identify yourself on the mic for.
So my name is Brenda Hunt. I'm the Watershed Program Manager with the Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District. And I know that's a mouthful, so I'm gonna call it CWSD from here on in. So I just wanted to basically say thanks to these guys for their presentation on this amazing, planning process. So the staff, specifically Ed James, the General Manager of CWSD, Kelly Nicholas, who is back there in the audience, and myself are part of the planning committee for the update of the Carson River Master Plan, provided through that National Park Services Rivers, Trails, and Conservation Assistance Program. CWSD is committed to continuing our involvement in the Carson City Open Space update of the Carson River Master Plan, and we're very supportive of the process, including the stakeholder engagement and the progress being made toward a clear, comprehensive, and useful master planning document for Carson City. The planning to date is consistent with the Carson River Watershed Adaptive Stewardship Plan, which is a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, a Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, and CWSD board reviewed and approved document. The stewardship plan helps Carson City and other entities throughout the watershed to receive priority funding access to the Clean Water Act Section 319 Non-Point Source Pollution Grants Program. The planning effort is also consistent with CWSD and Carson City's adopted Carson River Watershed Regional Floodplain Management Plan from 2018. That's currently in the process of being updated as well at the same time, so it's quite timely. And I just want to basically thank you guys for the opportunity to speak on behalf of CWSD and to continue to be a part of the update of this important planning effort. And that's directed basically toward the long-term protection of the Carson River watershed in the Carson City area. I also want to say, as a Carson City resident, the protection of the Carson River corridor and the amazing resources found there makes me super proud to be a resident of Carson City. We're truly standing on the shoulders of giants, giants who had a brave and comprehensive vision. This planning effort continues to solidify the importance of the river's corridor's protection and resources for the city's future. So I just want to thank you all I will help answer some of the CERCLA questions if you don't mind. So the Superfund site is actually an act. It's called CERCLA, or the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation Act of 1980. As Marina said, it goes from the Mexican Dam all the way down to the Carson Sink. There's actually two operable units. One is the upland portion where all the mills were. And so that has a record of decision that's been made by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. And there are certain remediation actions that happen. If you're going to do a development in an area, you have to make sure that you cover the soil a certain amount of depth in order to make sure that kids aren't digging in their backyard and they get into it, that type of thing. So there are remedial actions for that upland portion. Operable Unit 2 is basically the whole river corridor, and it actually includes a portion of the Truckee too. It's in Washoe, at Washoe Lake. And so it's right now in February, I think, of 2023, we, Carson City, CWSD, a ton of different stakeholders actually did provide feedback to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency on their draft, response plan. And we're waiting on the record of decision to be made. So that's, the little bit of an update there for you. And I'm happy to take questions too if you want me to.
Was there any questions? Nope. That means you did good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brenda.
Yeah.
Now it's public comment. Come on up.
Thank you, Chair. Denny French, Carson City. And I want to thank the parks for having done such a review. And however, I am really disturbed by the fact that stakeholders seem to have a priority. I understand that they're picking some individuals because of their backgrounds and such, and I sort of resent that because a lot of public has a lot of those same backgrounds, and those people might be part of what you reviewed already. But I also just don't like the feel of saying, well, we'll get to the public eventually. You know, I just don't feel that that interaction in this process is other than maybe by a physically separated survey. How many of those people do you know? How many people have been there? They're certainly taking time, as you suggested, Chair, and doing those considerations on the survey with thought and consideration. So I do appreciate that. But I don't like the idea that they're handpicking people to do a survey. I'd like to know who those people are so I can sort of judge their validity. And I see a smile up there and maybe a concern that I'm being over-concerned, but I get the impression from the people I'm around, they don't feel connected with the process here. And that shouldn't be the fact, because you're all working to make sure that that is a sense of it. And that's just not what I'm getting on my little Denny survey. And I'm also concerned about the fact that the mercury issue is while it's being tended, we didn't get a hearing about the fact that that mercury, just to disturb the stream bed, is objectionable to the circumstances, to whoever's in it and whoever is fishing in it. So it stirs up mercury. So those type of things, when we have this opportunity, we have these fine, well-educated, able to communicate people here, and we're not taking advantage of that opportunity. When we bring that up, bring it up a little deeper. And as far as the safety and health of the area, I'm concerned about beavers. Every time we kick up the water and that mercury gets into the fish, those poor beavers are eating it. So I'd like to know how they're doing, and it would be nice to have that have brought up, but I would have brought that up earlier and I missed the opportunity, so shame on me. And I also am glad to say that the keys have been found, so no more texting should be necessary. But I do appreciate the fact that I've been sort of preoccupied with another matter, is what I was saying. But, and that's a shame, because this is a very, very important time. I would like to bring up the other matters later, but I do appreciate the effort being made. I'm just not sure if this is involving any saying it's okay to maybe engineer the river, because it was my understanding it was going to run free. And the more I hear what might be getting done to save a trail or this or that, means more engineering, and that bothers me. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I bring it back for action or any other discussion? Well, it is in case you thought something might need to be carried forward on this, but like, do they need to go do more work or something? But that wouldn't be preferred. I think, was there an expectation for some action from you guys?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. No, Mr. Chair, I think that was just there as kind of part of our new
Right.
strategy to have a catch-all in case you want to take action. So if you don't want to take action, then none
Well,
needs to be
that's
taken.
up to the board. Yeah, I know that would, I'm very pleased with it. So the public survey were 300 people. We ought to remember them. They were the first people approached, so all 300 of them. So we didn't, and then there's going to be another workshop for the public too, right? Right. And they have moments to come to our meetings here too, whenever it's on the agenda, the general public. So just a point to be made. All right, so I guess I'm going to leave this agenda item unless there's anybody else had anything. We'll move forward. Oh, my mic. Get close to, okay, great. Thank you. That was an excellent report. Lots of work. 5D, discussion possible action regarding the 2023 and 2024 annual report of the activities of the Open Space Advisory Committee to be presented to the Board of Supervisors. Lindsay, you're on again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager for the record. So I am very proud to present this report to you today. Just one thing that's different from most years, we went ahead and are providing you a report for both 2023 and 2024. So there's a lot of content here, a lot of great things to celebrate. Just a reminder, this is an annual activity we do where we complete annual reporting and we bring it before the Board of Supervisors. This will be going before the board on this Thursday, the 19th. But you guys are lucky enough to hear it first. So just diving in, as you all know, there's about 7,400 acres of open space here in Carson City. And this includes our riparian areas along the Carson River that we were just speaking about, as well as our historic agricultural properties like Silver Saddle, and then certainly our hillsides and view sheds like Sea Hill, Ash Canyon, and a lot of the areas where we have our trails, and of course, Prison Hill. So that's a large area here in Carson City, and we have just 7 full-time staff who are responsible for managing all of those acres, as well as 1 part-time staff. And I did want to note that the park ranger program's partially funded by Open Space as well, so they're part of our team as well. But as I noted in the report, it's a small but mighty team, and what we're able to do with just those 8 people is pretty amazing. So as you all know, the importance of open space here in Carson City can't be overstated or undercelebrated. We all know that open space is a incredibly unique program here in Nevada. There's no other program like it that's funded by a sales tax, excuse me. Other counties have tried and failed. So we're very proud of the voters in the 90s who chose to tax themselves and make a program like this happen. We talk a lot about all the benefits this brings the community, like quality of life and providing for mental, emotional, physical wellness with our access to the outdoors. But one thing that can't be under highlighted is the intrinsic benefits of open space. So things like wildlife habitat protection, the floodplain protection in the Carson River corridor, water quality protection, watershed protection, and of course our scenic view sheds, and there's so much more. So I don't want to discount that both humans and wildlife, plants, bugs, all the things benefit from protection of open space lands in Carson City. I provided a history of open space here for anyone who's not familiar. I know you guys all know who and how we came to be, so I'll glaze through that section. I did want to note about our land acquisitions. So as of December 2024, approximately 7,400 acres of land has been protected in Carson City. This is through purchases, donations, as well as federal land transfer. This has all come at a cost of approximately $11 million of quality of life funding. But there has been an additional $8 million that has been leveraged in grant funds towards those acquisitions. So that's a total of over $19 million that has gone towards acquisitions in this community, which is about an average of $2,600 per acre. Those are enormous dollar amounts, and I think everyone here can speak to how amazing that is for our community. Speaking about grant funding, in 2023 and 2024, we were either a partner or directly involved in managing over 11 different grants, which total over $7 million in grant funds, which is huge. So we have our quality of life funding, but we try to spread that as much as possible by going after grants. And we've been pretty successful. And you'll note that there is match associated with many of these projects, but compared to that $7 million, it's pretty minimal in match. So we're very proud of that. Going into some of our capital improvement projects that were completed in 2023 and 2024, I did want to celebrate all of these because they were huge milestones for us. One of the biggest ones being completion of the Cap to Tahoe Trail. So that was the culmination of an 8-year effort by Muscle Powered with partners from Carson City, State Parks, Forest Service, as well as private landowners and others. So this was a huge effort. It has absolutely put Carson City literally on the map. We now have the ability to connect Carson City all the way up to Canada or all the way down to Mexico with connections to the PCT. Which is just absolutely amazing for a tiny little community like ours. And we even, or I should say the trail, was selected for an annual achievement award under the community linkage category for use of recreational trails program funding. So we're very proud of that as well. We had a grand opening in July 2023, and it was just so cool to see everyone come out and celebrate that trail. Completed in June of this year was the Desert Peach Trail. This was another really important trail connection on Prison Hill. This was another RTP grant. So we're just so proud of being able to add that connection, which was an important connection from kind of the lower portion of Prison Hill up to the North Loop. And it's a very popular trail. If you haven't ridden it yet, I strongly recommend. Most recently, we completed the Morgan Mill Interpretive Plaza and High Water Mark. Many of you were there. So this was a collaborative project with Public Works, CWSD, FEMA, Waste Management, and Silver Jackets. And the goal of this high water mark is to create a very visual structure that all the public can see that shows you just the extent of flooding in our community. And if you have not gone out there and stood beneath that pole and seen how high those watermarks are, I strongly recommend because it is absolutely astounding. And sometimes I don't believe that in 97 we had that much water, but we did. So it's very important. This is meant to be a kind of permanent reminder to the community that yes, Carson City floods and we need to be aware and educated and prepared.
What's a Silver Jacket?
Silver Jacket, that's a great question. They are a group, I believe, under the Nevada Division of Water Resources, and they are involved with flooding across the state.
Did they have silver jackets on?
I don't think so.
Oh.
They should, though.
The heck? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So yeah, we're very proud. We had a ribbon cutting. Mayor Bagwell and others were there, and it was really cool to see that all come together. Other major improvements that we made in the past couple years, you'll notice that we have kiosk signs. We're getting more and more of these throughout open space. I had mentioned that's one of our goals. That part of the education of who owns the land and what those rules and regulations are. And for a long time, we had been missing this type of information. So we're very glad that we've been able to work with our signage master plan and get these really great kiosks up all over throughout open space. Very exciting project, one that's happening right now, is the Prison Hill West project. So this is the multi-use pathway that is being constructed on the west side of Prison Hill. It includes not only Kuntz Lane Trailhead improvements, so if you haven't been to Kuntz Lane Trailhead yet, it has gotten a whole new facelift and it is back open, so you guys can check that out. But we've got a vault toilet there now, a picnic shelter, we have adequate parking. That whole area had been not specifically planned. It was just kind of remnants from use over the years. So it's really great to see it now being a well-designed, well-constructed facility. So construction on the path continues, but the trailhead itself is now open. So we're very excited about watching all of those improvements come to fruition. Moving into land management, a lot of these items are things that may have come to you before, so I won't speak to every single item on here, but I will note some highlights. And certainly completing the Prison Hill Master Plan in 2023 was a huge highlight. Prison Hill had a lot of separate planning efforts going on and planning that dated all the way back to the 90s. And so being able to pull that all together into a master plan that not only provides kind of what is the plan, but also identifies priorities and a plan of attack has been huge. And ever since the Board of Soups adopted that, we have been working to implement priorities that were identified in that plan. So it's been a very helpful document for us. Going into trails, so trails in 2023 and 2024, we speak of this COVID surge that started in 2020 and went through 2021. Ultimately, those numbers did start to drop off in 2022, but you can see in the graphs in the next page that the visitation in those years was just astronomical, especially on our most popular trail like the Waterfall Trail. So those numbers have dropped off, but you can see that we also do have kind of trending upward trends as far as our visitation. And we see this every day. We know that there are more and more people coming, and that's why building thoughtful, sustainable trails and sustainable access through trailheads and trails is very important, because we know that people are coming. A lot of people realized in 2020 how important recreation is. And so we can't put the cat back in the bag now. We can just plan accordingly for the use that we're getting, and we've been doing that. So it's just really cool to see these types of numbers and how many people value being on the trail. Just a few other notable trail projects that were completed in the last couple years. Of course, we had pretty extensive flooding in the winter of 2023, so we had damage to some of our trails, specifically those in Riverview Park. This was a great example of being able to use our full-time maintenance staff to help spread our maintenance dollars further. So in the past, when open space was smaller team, and we didn't have full-time maintenance folks, that's something we would have had to contract out, and it would have been very costly. We were able to do a good portion of that work in-house, and then we did use a contracting for a small portion of it, but we definitely reduced our costs through having talented and amazing staff on board. So we're seeing more and more of that, and the value of having those folks with us. There's been major improvements on Prison Hill with the completion of another segment on the Odyssey Trail, another really great, well-visited, very fun trail. Recommend everyone check out. Repairs and improvements were made to Kings Canyon Road in 2023. That was another grant-funded project. That road had significant stormwater and kind of travel safety concerns, so we've been able to mitigate those. And of course, Muscle Powered continued doing all kinds of things, but most notably, they worked on a 15-yard rock retaining wall, which is pretty amazing. That's a lot of rock. And then I did, again, want to mention that there was another section of trail that was badly damaged, the Eagle Creek segment, so we were able to reroute some of that trail to get up out of the floodplain, so hopefully we don't have the same issues out there before, and you can see that before and after photo, which is amazing. Just a quick plug for the Carson City West Side Trails map. This was completed in the last couple years. This has been a goal to just get more and more information out to the public to assist with their recreation efforts. So this QR code will take you to the Avenza map, which allows you to navigate in real time. These West Side Trails maps were printed by Visit Carson City, which is amazing. We have them available at our office. They're also available at the Visit Carson City office. So anyone who recreates on the west side, I recommend you pick up a copy. And then just kind of clipping right along through some of our notable management activities. Of course, we continued the sheep program. That continues to be an important natural resource, fuel reduction, fire prevention program for us. Speaking of fire, we continue to monitor the results of our Prison Hill fire restoration project. So there was a big fire on Prison Hill, as you all know, back in 2021. So we did an aerial seeding, and then Marina and her team have been working on monitoring that area ever since. And you can see some great before and after photos. Really what we're seeing are just the impacts of north versus south facing slopes. Those north facing slopes are looking pretty good and they're recovering pretty well. Those south facing slopes tend to have a lot more cheatgrass, and that's typical of any restoration project, any post-fire throughout the Great Basin. But it does help us inform where we need to spend time and attention. The next item here speaks about the Prison Hill OHV area. Of course, we brought our monitoring report back in October, so I don't want to spend too much time here, but the OHV area, of course, is an important area. We've done so much great work there in the past, really working on restoration and travel management and erosion control and all that good stuff. So we're very proud of all the improvements that we've done. Those are just going to continue, and the monitoring out there is going to continue as well. But I'm not alone when I say I'm so proud of the OHV area and how far it's come. One project that's kind of neat to speak about is a biological control project that we've been doing the last couple years. You may have been familiar with the project we've been working on with Canada thistle. So just a reminder for anyone who doesn't know, biocontrol is using either a naturally occurring fungus in the case of the Canada thistle, or sometimes it can be a naturally occurring insect that is specific, has a specific host plant, and we're lucky enough that their specific host plant are some of these noxious weeds that we deal with. So capitalizing on the success of the Canada thistle project, we have been looking and working with Nevada Department of Ag to hopefully start a hoary cress biocontrol program. Hoary cress is one of the most common noxious weeds that we have here. It has incredible invasive potential, and we spend a lot of time having to spray it. And being able to have a naturally occurring insect that can help reduce those populations and reduce our reliance on herbicide is huge. So we're excited for that project to be coming down the pipe. We're kind of in the documentation and pre-monitoring phase right now. We just spoke about the Carson River Master Plan in a lot of depth, so I won't go into too much detail there, but other than it will be an important part of our work plan moving forward as well. I wanted to highlight the International Trail Summit that came to our area in 2023. This was absolutely amazing. We had over 900 attendees from 29 countries, which made it the largest trails conference ever. And with that, we got to really highlight our region as well as Carson City specifically. So we had a tour of the Prison Hill OHV area, and we had folks who got to come and ride that area and learn about the improvements that we had done and just have visibility for that project from people all over the world, literally. So that's amazing. We also partnered on a presentation with the Federal Highway Administration, looking at trails as resilient infrastructure, which highlighted a lot of the efforts that we've been doing in the Prison Hill and Carson River area. So we're just so proud that, we were able to be part of that, and that Reno and Carson, this northern Nevada, got to be highlighted. And of course, our department and Muscle Powered were also recognized under the Trails Promotion and Education. So we won an award, which is amazing. So just want to highlight that was a big part of 2023. Another thing I wanted to put out on the record, so in the last 2 years, we have purchased an all-terrain wheelchair. So we acquired a Grit Freedom Chair as part of our continuing efforts to promote access for all to as much as our trail system as well as our open space areas as feasible. So we have had a few events with the rangers where we've brought the chair, and it has been utilized by different individuals who might not be able to participate in a program like this otherwise. I wanted to put it out for the public that this chair is available for anyone who's interested, and to please contact us because we want to make sure that that chair is getting used as much as possible. So moving into the volunteer program, we did a lot with the volunteer program in 2023 and 2024. There was just a tiny error in the numbers here, so I wanted to correct those. Their tables are correct, but the total for 2024 was actually over 89,000, so even more than I had previously reported. So the total between the last 2 years is over $178,000 in basically in-kind labor that we've been able to receive from amazing volunteers. That's over 5,000 hours. That is just incredible, and we are so thankful to all of our volunteers who come out and participate. It is no small feat to give us your time, and we do appreciate, and we get a lot out of it, as you can see by all the great activities that we did. So in 2023, you can see a snapshot here of just some of the different projects that we did, things like trash cleanup, thistle digs, planting events, wood duck nesting box installation, so kind of a smattering of all kinds of different activities. We're always trying to provide different and diverse opportunities for our volunteers. Same thing in 2024. We continued with a smattering of really great events, a lot of trash cleanup in some of our more remote areas, but then also a lot of planting. So we're working on developing a pollinator garden at the Empire Ranch Trailhead, which previously had been kind of a weedy mess. So being able to really do a facelift on that and be able to install some really important native plants in that location has been very cool, and we've been babying them along and watering them, so we're hopeful that we get a lot of recruitment there. Definitely want to highlight the Park Ambassador program. That's been a huge effort through 2024. So we did all kinds of things with our park ambassadors. They help us pick up trash. They help pick up dog waste. They pull weeds. And they're also our eyes and ears on the trail. So for anyone who doesn't know, our park ambassadors are kind of individual volunteers who are assigned to a specific location. And they may be out there every day. They may be out there weekly. But it's just a way for us to have kind of more intimate and involved volunteers for some of our sites. And in just 2024, we had 6 new park ambassadors, and they have collectively volunteered over 180 hours, which is huge. And 159 of those were just one couple out at Riverview Park, which is amazing. So we're just so proud of all those efforts, and I really wanted to say on the record how thankful we are of their time. Of course, we had many Eagle Scouts in 2023 and 2024. All of those folks came before you guys. All of their contributions have been extremely valuable, and we love having our Eagle Scouts work in open space. And you can see just a few pictures from some of those projects. And then I did want to include the specific volunteer metrics for 2023 and 2024, so you can see all the list of activities that we did during that time and the total hours. But again, it's just pretty astounding. So with that, I think I just want to conclude by saying this is a 23-page report. It's not everything that we do. We do so much more. My staff is amazing. They are some of the most talented, hardworking, and intelligent people I've ever met. So just thank you guys for all your support and for another great couple years. And with that, I will take questions.
You want a glass of water?
Yes, please.
Yeah, that unbelievable. I need questions from this side.
Where do the insects come from for the biological control? Is that like a subcontractor that manages that, or do you guys do that?
Great question. I saw Marina moving. I know that she's the one that works on this program most directly, so I'll let her chime in. But we are working with Nevada Department of Ag.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, we work with Nevada Department of Agriculture, and they work very closely with insectaries. I believe the Palisades Insectary in Colorado does most of the research on biological control agents. And it takes like a decade of research to determine like, okay, this insect is specific to this one plant. It will not spread and eat any other plants. That takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. So tons of effort is spent determining that this is a safe thing to do.
That's so interesting. And then what do they do? Do they ship them to you, or they bring them and then they distribute them? Like, how does that process work?
That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah.
Hazmat. Yeah.
It's specific to each type of agent. For the fungus that we have used for Canada thistle, the Department of Agriculture gets those specimens, I guess, and they come to us all ground up in a little brown bag, and then very carefully the Department of Ag and us will just kind of sprinkle them along on Canada thistle and water them in and hope for the best. So, but yeah, the insects, I'm sure will come to us in a more secure container than a brown bag.
Fantastic amount of work. You guys just do so much for such a small staff. It's just great. It's beautiful. So I can't say any more.
Good work.
What a relief probably to get 23, 24 done, huh? Bang, take it off your to-do list. That's probably, yeah, we were a year late last time. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and
Because she was sick. It was a bad day for her that day.
yeah, luckily my amazing staff helped me write this year and get us back on track. So yeah, now we can take a little breather.
No, I just respect that the fact that it was high enough on the list to get that done and move it forward, and then you're in the regular program now. I love the pictures. That pictures say more than writing. And hopefully the Board of Supervisors take the time to look at all the pictures, as at least all of the functions that you guys do are phenomenal. So I always say it every time you do this, don't ever think it's a waste of time of what your presentation is tonight. Because that's what you do, and that's where we need to know all those things that you just talked about. It's part of what our responsibility is too. So it's time consuming, but it's really important. And how much time does the Board of Supervisors give you? Do they limit your time, or?
We requested 30 minutes this time because we want to
Wow.
really highlight everything that
Good
we've done,
job.
and we've got 2 years to share. So
Good job, 30 minutes. That'll be great. So good job. And we can show up as not committee members, but we can show up and make public comment on our own. If you ever want to go to support what they're doing as a community member, I guess would be the word. So whenever you know you're going to be on, always send us an email out saying we're on the Board of Supervisors and certain date and time.
So this item will be going to the board this Thursday, the 19th, and the meeting starts at 8:30. I'm not sure where we're at on the agenda, but that's the date. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Was there any thoughts of any action for this? But the action, we know they're going. They're on the hot seat Thursday. Seeing none, I'm going to move it off this item to the next agenda item. Public comment on this item. Sir, did you ever want to say anything? I think you look familiar to me.
No, I'm good. I'm just observing.
That's what I thought you might be doing, just observing tonight. Yeah.
Do you want to change places? Let me know. Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. I really appreciated the material in this, and it's a lot to digest. I do have some suggestions, and I'll go get them. I just learned during my efforts to suggest a new zoning setup that would actually consist of wildlife and habitat sanctuary designated zoning. I was told that the zoning can't be that, however, that when somebody has a conservation easement, that doesn't protect a piece of property, and you have to remember that does not. What would protect that property is that when you draw up the legal aspect of the statement of consideration, you have to put in no grading, no digging, no removal of fauna or well, I hate to say that, plants or animals, no disturbance of soil, no disruption of streams. All of these things have to be put in by us as a city. Otherwise, they can interpret it similar to how they interpreted the Prison Hill matter, and that was very broad, which allowed an engineered trail on an area of endangered species. And I have not yet gotten a satisfactory response about the monkey flower review, nor several other critters. And I didn't see, and I thought it was disappointing, but I do want to encourage all of us as Carson City residents to encourage the city to get more personnel. They're going to need more rangers, they're going to need more employees for their parks and everything as they bringing and hoping for more involvement from the public. And I really want to encourage that. They really need to get more support people-wise. I think they've got, the staff is maybe contrary to my considerations and appreciations, but we all want the best for this community and for the habitat. Lindsay Boyer's statement suggests that that's their main target. But is that habitat in open space is a consideration to them like it is to me and to a lot of this public. It's how we then do it. How do I see it in works? I haven't seen as much of that as I'd really like to. I do understand that there are restrictions when you want to put in something that big. It's time consuming and expensive, but I want to invite you to look at the Nevada Wildlife Draft Connection Plan introduction. And it's a process, is to help find corridors through communities' involvement. That's so the city says, listen, we know that there's a species here. We would like to encourage that to be on your list of corridor area that will be reserved as a special endangered species and area of specific needs. And so that's in this, and I'd like to turn that in. I'd like you to also know that I don't spell well. I don't deal with the English language in written form very well, but I hope that you will get the intent and the basics from it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Danny. All right, next item on the agenda is 5E. Discussion. I have to do what? I'm listening to two different people. Go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. I just wanted to let you know what items at the board meeting on Thursday. So 19A at the board meeting will be the MOU for the Tahoe Pass system, and 19B will be Lindsay's report for open space. So it's fairly far down the agenda, maybe 9:30 or so, if anyone wanted to attend.
9:30?
I would think so. There's a lot on the agenda.
Depends upon if they pull something from their consent agenda. Yeah. It does? Or the report does? Oh. What are you going to do without? I can say. Well, the last one we just did, I thought if we sat here and told her now we don't want her to do that, it'd be like, that'd be a terrible motion. All right, I'm looking for a motion. Can you do that, Donna?
I need my glasses. I move to approve the 2023 and 2024 annual report of activities of the Open Space Advisory Committee to be presented to the Board of Supervisors.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Susan. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimous. So we need a big stamp I can put on your cover letter there. So thank you. Next agenda item. Go back that again. Well, that just surprised me, Don. Yeah, because it's a kind of a done deal. I hate to sit, but that's good. We reaffirmed that. So, discussion possible action regarding Open Space Advisory Committee meeting schedule for the calendar year of 2025.
I can't believe we're up to a quarter of a century.
2025.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay Boyer for the record. So this is an easy item. We have before you the proposed calendar of meetings for 2025. This is based on kind of our typical schedule of third Monday of every other month. The exceptions are noted with an asterisk. Those have been adjusted slightly due to a holiday. So with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions? Yeah. So, is that an action item done?
Okay, let me try. I move to approve the Open Space Advisory Committee meeting schedule for calendar year 2025, as presented.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Donna, second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We know what we're doing next year. Okay, so number 6, we're moving to 6A, the director's report. Updates regarding the department's projects, programs, facilities, and events, grants, status of recruitment for vacant positions, boards and commissions, attendance policy, and the Board of Supervisors action items. Jennifer Budge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. You have all of your Board of Supervisor action items in your packet. If you have any questions, let me know. I handed out our activity guide that just is hot off the press, so you know what we're doing in our department, which is a lot. We also have a newsletter that goes out monthly, and thanks to Erin Larson, our volunteer coordinator, for getting that out, which is really helpful. And our activity guide is available online in Spanish, so you can just click on a button and it'll have a translation for you of the entire activity guide, which is really helpful. So we're trying to get that guide out to the Spanish community and trying to just get our message out in all of our programming, which is great. And then I just wanted to take a moment to specifically thank Lindsay and Greg for leading our grant team for our Mills Park Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act grant. We'll be receiving almost $15 million to really revitalize this park, and they really led the effort and are the experts in the department leading our grants, and I really appreciate that. So I just wanted to acknowledge them for all their hard work. I know it's not open space, but there's a lot of really important components for the community that is really going to be a legacy for the community to come. That's it.
So when do you give them the bonus for that extra work, huh? Good old government rewards their employees with.
Every July 1st.
You have a wonderful director to let you know
I do have
what a
one,
good job you guys are
one
doing.
question. Is the Mills Park and Williams Street going to happen at the same time, or is it going to be?
Probably not. I
Of
think
course
William
not.
Street will probably happen first. It's actually already underway in phases. So we wish it could be timed like that, but I don't think we'll even probably get a notice to proceed for a couple years. So it'll be some time just to manage expectations for that. We're really excited about it, but it's a long process getting that grant funding.
Okay, Senior Natural Resource Specialist and Open Space Manager Report. Activities related to projects managed by the Open Space Division, including updates within the Carson River Corridor. Marina and Lindsay, the team is back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lindsay Boyer for the record. I'll start first. Marina has a few items here, and 2 of these, the Carson River Master Plan and the Morgan Mill High Water Mark, I spoke about during our annual report, so I won't speak on those today. But just a few other items. So staff attended the Eastern Sierra Trails Coalition, which was held at WNC this past November. So this is kind of an informal collaboration of agencies, nonprofits, community organizations, and trail advocates, kind of all working together for the celebration of trails in this region. So Greg, our trails coordinator, led the annual Trail X update talks, and he also spoke about the Prison Hill Master Plan, and it was just really exciting to hear kind of all the efforts that are going on trail-wise throughout the region. So that was a very kind of exciting day. There's a lot of momentum out there. I also wanted to mention the Nevada Site Stewardship Training. So for those of you who don't know, this is a program that we participate in conjunction with the State Historic Preservation Office to monitor the archaeological resources that are out at Silver Saddle Ranch. So Silver Saddle being a historic site, there are important cultural and historic resources out there. And so as part of this program, we train volunteers to go out and make sure that there hasn't been vandalism or widespread theft of our important artifacts. And I'm happy to announce that the Friends of Silver Saddle Ranch have joined our team as additional site stewards for the ranch, which is a perfect collaboration between us. So we were very excited and thankful for their participation. I also did want to provide an update on our water rights project for Buzzy's Ranch. So as you all know, we have been working to acquire dedicated water rights for Buzzy's Ranch for a number of years now. The Board of Supervisors basically gave us an authorization to move forward with all the due diligence that's needed to acquire water back in July 2023. So we've been working through a lot of different steps since then. We are hopeful that we will be coming before the board in early 2025 with the fee title acquisition for approximately 915 acre-feet of water to purchase from Vidler Water Company. So this would represent a portion of the water that's needed for Buzzy's Ranch. We went through the process of getting an appraisal for these, and we would be using our undesignated account, which is kind of our catch-all for future acquisitions, which we do have a healthy budget there. So we're very excited about that coming to fruition. This has been a long time coming. As part of that item that we bring before the board, we also want to make sure that the portion that's being purchased with SNPLMA funding is also captured and codified. We'd like to bring forward an option agreement as part of our kind of greater water rights strategy, so we can really make sure that those rights are secured. So between kind of the 915 that we've been working on with our project partner Vidler, as well as the 694 that's earmarked through SNPLMA, that leaves just about 285 remaining acre-feet that are needed to support the ranch. And we're currently talking to some private partners about acquiring that remaining portion. So if all goes accordingly, we will hopefully be securing all the water that's needed in 2025, which would be a huge thing for the ranch, just to make sure it's protected and irrigated in perpetuity. So we're very proud of that. I did want to speak related to the SNPLMA project. There's a variety of due diligence that's required before we can get to the appraisal and kind of actual acquisition piece, which is why we'd like to secure those under an option. But right now we're working on a water study and a water report. So the water study is kind of looking at the botanical and hydrological features, making sure that we can prove to SNPLMA exactly how much water we need to buy and put to beneficial use out there. So that's kind of a boots on the ground study. And then that's paired with a water report, which is kind of all the background, the title, all of the ownership information that SNPLMA needs to know about the water. So those two items will go to SNPLMA, they will sign off on it, and then we'll be able to proceed with appraisals and next steps on that project. So with any SNPLMA project, that does move slow, but things are definitely working through. So with that, I will turn it over to Marina to speak on her updates.
Thanks, Lindsay. Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist for the record. I have the pleasure of telling you all about our Empire Ranch Pollinator Garden. We're in year one of maybe 5 years that I'm thinking it's going to take to get this fully grown. This year we, with the help of many volunteers, planted nearly 200 pollinator plants out there, native pollinator plants. Some of those were shrubs, like woods rose, sagebrush is even a pollinator species, and then we had a number of forbs, or wildflowers. We had 2 volunteer events. The first was in collaboration with River Wranglers, and we had students from St. Teresa of Avila Catholic School. We had 21 6th graders participate in Conserve the Carson River Workday. And those sixth graders were excellent to work with. They knew, we try to incorporate a little bit of education with our events with school kids. You know, I was asking them questions like, what's a pollinator? What's a pollinator plant? What's a native species, an invasive species? And these kids just knew all the answers, so I didn't have to tell them anything. But they told us that that was one of their favorite volunteer or education activities that they'd done for the year. So that was awesome to hear. And then to follow that up, we had an event on October 2nd with volunteers from the public. 11 folks came out and helped us plant 150 grasses and wildflowers. So that's just phase one. Many phases coming. Please participate and help us. It's going to take a lot of plants in the ground for to cover that 2-acre site at Empire Ranch Trailhead. So more information to come there. And then the last thing I want to talk about is past and upcoming events and activities. On this table, it says that on December 14th, there was a holiday hike. That was rescheduled due to our first snow of the year. It's going to be happening this Saturday, the 21st. Also happening in concert with that holiday hike is the raffle prize drawing for our first ever Trails Challenge. So if you participated in that and you submitted your log by December 1st, you are in the raffle to earn a prize. We have fantastic prizes from like Patagonia and some golf courses and some restaurants in town. So hopefully you all submitted your trail logs. And then, yeah, there's a number of volunteer and ranger events already scheduled for 2025. So be on the lookout for those.
So with that, we'll take any questions.
It's cold in here, I think, isn't it? Or is it me? Yeah, it is cold in here. Okay. I just thought of that. Any questions on this side?
I would love to do the Empire Ranch pollinator planting project. Do you have a rough idea of when that will be? Which month, maybe?
We'll put plants in the ground each fall.
Okay,
Yeah,
so next year.
that's the best time. Yeah, but we do want to build like a little interpretive trail and have nice, cute signage that talks about pollinators, and maybe we can have something where kids draw something for us. So there'll be more events than just planting each fall.
Okay.
Yeah, to help with.
Cool.
Nothing. Nothing. You're free to be. I think that. Where are we at? 6B, 7, member announcements and requests for information. We already did 7A, so we're okay there, but we have member announcements. So any announcements anybody wants to make? Donna has an announcement in her last thing she gets to say in her last meeting. What will that be?
I just want to say that a lot of us probably, well, maybe not all of us, are aware of the Conserve Nevada grant was very underfunded last time. There was 18 million in requests and there was 3 million in the pot. And so this year, I worked as president of the Historic Virginian Trail with Mickey, and I can't remember her name. She's now on sabbatical at the Nevada Nature Conservancy, and Tina Nappy, she's with now, she used to be with Sierra Club, that's how I know Tina. We worked together to write a letter to the governor to explain the need for increasing the pot to 20 million, and sent the letter out to a lot of nonprofits, parks and recs, every park and rec in the county in Nevada. And I think we had 39, I can't remember exactly the number, co-signees of the letter that went to the governor because he was working on the budget for next year. We have no idea if that's going to have any effect at all. Probably not, but we made an effort. So, I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that, Jen?
Jennifer Budge, Parks and Recreation Director. In order for us to sign on to that letter, we would have had to have a board agenda, and we couldn't meet the timeline for that. But we did have our lobbyists reach out to the governor's office, encouraging support for, all the messages in that letter. So we did at least try to do that.
We were pleased with the number of co-signees that we did have. We did pretty good, we thought. But whether or not that's really going to have an impact, but we explained that 20 million was a far more realistic figure for that than 3 million. Because the plan was that we'd heard from the governor that there would be no change in the budget at all, overall, the entire state budget. And that Conserve Nevada would again be 3 million. Also, the Historic Virginia and Truckee Trail, we have put into the Conserve Nevada grant, again, an application for the first engineering studies to put the bridge back over the Carson River. I'll try again, I don't know if you were planning on trying again for water rights, but, we just keep trying.
Does everybody know what Conserve Nevada is?
It was State Question 1 previously in 2000. It's just rebranded in 2019 with AB 84.
It's very specific where it gives money for certain types of, like the Carson River or the Truckee River, or so much for this. Like the rim trail, I gathered almost $500,000 to finish up the rim trail, so it's a big pot of money. But then they slammed it. They shut the door on it and stuff, so.
Yeah. It's for
moves
trails.
with the wind of the politics.
And for historic and cultural things in Nevada. It's a very worthwhile thing, and there's in the bill for it, there's bonds to fund it for 87 million, I think, but.
Oh, no, I was just making sure people understood what.
Yeah.
The value of that program. It's one of the few grants the state ever has had, actually, for
Yeah, and it's
such a broad range of projects.
there's a 10% match, which is not bad. The Historic Virginia and Truckee Trail right now, we have a $950,000 federal grant application in for federal grant to design 2 miles of trail. Multi-use path. We're still waiting to hear on that. We have no idea when we'll hear, if we'll ever hear.
All right, thanks, Donna. Any other member announcements? Susan, you can't leave, I've decided.
I just want to thank you, Mark, and all of the group. I did a lot of soul searching, just had conflicts, but I know that leaving it in good hands and with Aaron and Jay and Sam coming on, I think it's in fine hands, and I know that there's people out there that would be really positive to the board. And I also, you said it, Lindsay, and I keep reiterating in my mind and just think it true. You all are small but mighty, and just the work that Marina and Greg and all of your staff do, and Jennifer, and it's just, when you talk about the studies that you're doing and talk about the just getting out there, and it's just amazing, the accomplishments. So Mark's spot on. Keep saying what you're saying and saying what you're doing, because I think people tend to take things for granted. So the more you can let them know that these are hard projects, and we're doing a good job. So thank you for that. And that big old binder, I will get it to you, because that may save you from some of the, or at least updating it. And then one other thing is, thank you for sending us the Carson City movie, the Visit Carson City video. I loved that. I mean, the Life Mark movies is just, it's
amazing.
It was
movie is so cool.
Truly just fun. And I showed it to everybody who who lives in Carson that I know. It's like, look at this. So yeah, it was good. But thank you for the opportunity. Thank you all for the support. And like I said, I'll be around.
I love that movie because of when I first moved to this community, it's when I was on the planning commission, there was wasn't a set of plans for approval, but a set of plans for the Silver Saddle Ranch, several homes, and I lived out on the river, so of course I was a NIMBY about that, but it's just amazing. It was so funny because I was at these meetings with John Single, I would be there from BLM, and Southern Nevada Public Land Act played a big role, but myself and Steve, ex-Park Super, and Castens, and Juan and I went to Arizona, and we went to Steamboat, two different places where there's a ranch on BLM land that's being family ranches like that. And that it became a reality was just phenomenal to think of that in little old Carson City, such a major purchase. So I love the fact that theme of that show was buying land at it was like the movie, that TV show Yosemite with these people doing all that. So it was great. And that's the word I used was cute, I think. And I thought it was really the ranger that worked here because of the uniform. So I thought, well, I don't remember seeing her out on the park anywhere. So that was, yeah, it was fun. I'm really glad they sent that out. So thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all we got left is agenda items. Then we can, and then public comments after that.
Wait, I want to ask one question. Now that Donna and Susan are not on the board, it's okay for me to reach out to them to ask some questions and possibly for mentorship, correct? We can talk to each other now without the Brown Act being a problem?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're civilians now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It might cost you a cup of coffee or something at a Starbucks or something, maybe.
LA Bakery.
Yeah. Okay, so any future agenda items on the list? I didn't make a copy of that. Easy to make a copy of that. Oh, maybe there it is. So elections, that's in February is our next meeting. Holy moly. The open space work plan, which is for 25, 26, and a budget. And anything else on the agenda for the next meeting that anybody would like to see from any of our discussions?
You have one more agenda item. Open Space Advisory Committee, future agenda items.
Right, that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. Sorry, you're still thinking about that Conserve Nevada grant, so. So I know we talked about maybe a retreat, especially with 2 new board members coming on. So it'd be nice to have it on agenda as a discussion item, not an action item. And I thought there was something else. There might be something that, no, will there be something to report on the river in February? Maybe not. Huh?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. Not in February, but we do plan on hosting that second workshop in March. So something at that
After
point for
March?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing else? All right, public comment then? Oh,
Denny French, Carson City. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Lindsay, and thank you, Loveless Joy. And everybody at Parks has my great appreciation. I worked at a city for nearly 10 years. We were public works, so I covered a media of things besides crack seals, park mowing, and care of restrooms and signage and such sprinklers. So I covered a lot, and I appreciate the fact that it has to be done by people that care. Because if you don't care, you're going to get hurt for one thing. You're not going to keep the area nice for another. And the community's not going to want you around. So I appreciate the effort. I see them out working all the time. And while I come up to different conclusions and I've been considered a counterpoint to things or a wet blanket, it's not because I don't care about your efforts. I do care that there are perspectives allowed to be intervened into it or interjected into it that has people having other questions perhaps, or other considerations that they hadn't before. And so in that point, I just want to say that the state is really looking to have understanding of the corridor considerations. And without a recent review of what's going on as far as animal life and plant life on the Hill, they can't really make those considerations. And I would like, with all that you're already doing, to add to the consideration of what should be on the agenda is, or for their agenda as far as opportunity to get something that would help the state figure out where those corridors should be. If they know about an area that has a certain plant or has a certain species of insects, that information could go to the state and then help them build that line of information to know where we're going to have it. It's nice to say we're going to plant flowers in an area, but if that's not on the track of those insects, those plants are going to be a little bare for help in their pollination. So where that pollination is gone, as far as the plantage, is got to be considered as far as location, and I'm sure they've done that. But you can't force a bug to go there. It's like trying to get a horse to drink if they're not thirsty. The main thing for me is to make sure that you know I'm not here with my time that I could use somewhere else. This is where I'm choosing to be because I'm involved. And I would like to encourage other people to be involved. So when you say, hey, public, come out, I hope that you really do. And I'd like discussion, really discussion. If I bring up a question and one of you could pick it up and then put it out in a discussion form, it would be really nice, because I don't have the chance to make a discussion out of it. I have a statement moment, and that's it. What I'm turning over to you is just a guide from the state that I got from the wildlife meeting, and then a note at the bottom, just to remind you, nothing's in perpetuity unless we do our best. Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion for adjournment. We're done. Donna, you got to close the last meeting. Thank you, everybody. Good stuff, guys.